What's up, guys? Nico Coley here, Executive Director, MWR Financial. And I just wanted to share a quick video with you on some of the ways you might be leaving money on the table. I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen so we can be looking at the same thing. So I actually have two of my friends today who are going to help us out. So that's going to be Robert Refund and Angela Adjustment. And so if you are following along, go ahead and grab your worksheet. If not, blank piece of paper will do, or just follow along. So the number we're going to start with is $500, and it's just an arbitrary number. It's not necessarily specific to anyone, but it is a number that we're using because most of the people who filed bankruptcy said if they had at least an extra $500 a month coming into their household, they wouldn't have had to file for bankruptcy. And so with that number in mind, I thought 500 was a good place to start. Plus, it's realistic if some of you go back and look at how much you're actually paying in federal taxes. I know before I started MWR Financial, they were taking over $500 out of my check just in federal taxes alone. So it's a good number to start with. So what Robert says is, I'm cool. I'm not gonna make no adjustments to my W-4. As it turns out, whatever the default is, in this case, 500, we're just gonna roll with that. And so $500 over the course of a year is actually $6,000 that Mr. Refund is overpaying to the government. Okay, no biggie, right? He gets his $6,000 at the end of the 12 months. And then he's one of the rare people who doesn't have any debt that he needs to put it on. He's not going to spend it on a vacation. He's just going to hold on to it, maybe stick it under his mattress or somewhere else. So his $6,000 for 10 years or after 10 years becomes $60,000. No biggie, right? Robert is disciplined. His $6,000 a year becomes $60,000 after 10 years. But Angela, she's like, I don't really know about that. I worked for this money. Why would I overpay the government that money? Why don't I just take my 500 up front, put it into a vehicle or interest-bearing account where I'm making at least 8%. And she's going to do that same thing for 10 years. And so Angela takes her 6,000 a year, which is, broken down to 500 a month, because we're not asking for nothing much, right? We just want Angela's like, hey, something manageable, 500 a month. I was paying in the taxes. I can instead put it in an interest-bearing account. No new money, using the money she already had. So after 10 years though, Angela has $91,000. And it's like, okay, that's $31,000 more than Robert has, but let's just see what happens as we continue, right? So Robert, same thing. He does his 500 a month throughout the course of the year. So that's where we get 6,000 from. We follow Robert's story for 15 years. Same 6,000. The 15-year mark. Robert feeling good about himself. He got $90,000. He's still about 1,000 short of Angela, but Robert, he just gonna keep his the way it is. Angela's like, nah. So it turns out I would keep my 500. It's making me some money, so I'm just gonna let it keep going and do it for 15 years. So we follow Angela for 15 years, and Angela actually ends up with, after 15 years, $173,000. She's definitely pulling away from Robert at this point. But only time can tell, right? So let's see what happens with Robert. Because now I'm invested. I want to know what's going on with these two. It's almost like what they call it, turtle in the hair. I want to see what's going on with this story. So Robert's $6,000 a year because he's overpaying $500 a month in his taxes. Robert gonna end up with a whopping $180,000. Go ahead, Robert. Actually, my apologies. I got ahead of myself. I wanted Robert to win so bad. So he put his $6,000. He ends up with $180,000 after 30 years. Maybe Robert started this plan as a young man because now he got $180,000 30 years later. But let's check on Miss Adjustment because she's like, check this out. I'm not with it. I'm not overpaying a dime more. I don't overpay anywhere else. I'm not going to do it to the government. I'm going to get my money up front, $500 a month times 30 years. Let's say she stuck hers in something called the private reserve account. Angela ends up with, at her 8% interest rate, which is not unheard of in a private reserve account by any means, it's actually on the low end in a private reserve account, with $745,000. I'm not even going to try to do no math in public for you guys. It's not that type of situation right now. But it's at least, we'd say 5 or 6 times what Robert had over the same time period. And all Angela did was upload her last 2 pay stubs, her last year's tax return. Some financial experts look at it. They said, hey, Angela, you're overpaying by $500 a month. So Angela was like, cool, let me stop that. And now she's at $745,000, but Robert's only at $180,000. Something about that's just not adding up. But that happens to Americans every day because they just don't know. And so that's one of the reasons I'm here, is because I feel like when you know what to do, you'll do it. And so I encourage everybody, if you're leaving your money on the table, join Angela. Angela decided that she's going to adjust her W-4 properly. We're not, Angela's not doing anything shady. She just saw where she was overpaying and said, all right, not doing that no more. And I'm gonna put it in a vehicle that's going to earn at least 8% interest. Like I said, a private reserve account, that's not hard to get 8% interest. It's actually a low interest rate when you're talking about private reserve accounts. So where do you fall on this scale? At the end of the day, it's very simple though. Why don't you leave the simple world and join the compound world? Because what we saw with Robert is his interest, there was no interest, right? It was zero, very simple math. When it came to Angela, 8% over a year, over 2 years, over 5 years, over 10 years, 15 years, 30 years. It's compounding and compounding. And this is exactly how they do it. The middle class, they always getting taxed, but they defer their taxes. They just say, I'm gonna take my money up front and I'm gonna find all these different places to put my money so that I don't have to pay taxes. The only requirement is to file taxes. There's no requirement that says you have to pay them. So why are we still getting refunds when we should actually be getting our money up front? Only you can answer that question for you. But if you are feeling like Angela and you'd like to get your money up front that you've worked for and stop letting the government stick their hand in your check before you get to it, go ahead and text keyword adjustment to 678-951-7293. Again, keyword adjustment and your name to area code 678-951-7293. I'll see you in the compound world.